use Flash to create games or simulations, you need some way of generating random numbers. And here's just a little example where I have two dice, or a pair of dice, and I click this rolling button and it rolls the dice and shows me the values of both die and the total. And the values that are coming up are generated randomly, which is what you want in a game. We saw in the previous video with the math class that there was a method called random. And that method generates a random number between 0 and 1. So if I have a variable of x, y, z, which contains an integer, I can generate a random number by using Math.random, which is going to give me a decimal number between 0 and 1, and multiply it by some factor in terms of the upper limit. So this example here of xyz equals math.floor, and I'm taking the floor value of math.random times 10, is going to give me a value between 0 and 9, simply because math.random generates a number between 0 and 1, and I multiply that by 10, and it's going to give me a number between 0.000001 and 9.99999. So if I take the floor value, it's going to truncate the decimal, and I get a value between 0 and 9. If I wanted to have a value between 1 and 10, I can add 1 to that. Obviously, adding 1 to 0 is going to give me 1, and adding 1 to 9 is going to give me 10, and I have the whole range in between that. The other way I could do that is using the math.seal method, and simply taking math.random times 10, and that's going to give me a value between 0 and 9, and then the math.seal will raise it up one integer to the next highest integer above that value, and I'd get a value between 1 and 10. So two different ways there of getting values between 1 and some number. And that's what I used in creating the little dice roller. So let's take a look at that. So I have here a button that I created. It's named roll_btn, and then I have two movie clips, or two instances actually of the same movie clip. The movie clip is called MC Die, and this one, the instance name is die1_MC and die2_MC. I'm going to double click on die1 so you can see this movie clip. So now I'm in the timeline for this movie clip MC Die, and I have an action here on the very first frame, which simply says stop. And then each frame shows that die with the different values going from 1 to 6. So the dots are on one layer, the rectangle below those dots is on another layer. And that's all that movie clip is. Then in my scene 1, with those two instances, we would code this button. Oh, I also have a text box down here. It's a dynamic text named myroll_txt, which I'm going to show the value of the two die. So let's look at the actions for scene 1. So I have an event listener for my button responding to a click event, and it's going to run a function called roll'em. And then I have two variables that are class level variables. Notice they are declared outside of the function. And die1 I give a value of 1, die2 I give a value of 2 just to initialize them. And actually, since I'm starting with 1 and 1, I probably should make that a 1. And then my function roll'em doesn't return anything, so the return type is void, and die1 equals math.seal math.random times 6. That's going to give me a value between 1 and 6. Same thing for die2. And then I'm going to set the movie clip die1_MC to the frame of die1. So if it comes up as a 1, if die1 is 1, I'll see the first frame of that movie clip. If die1 is 6, I'll see the sixth frame of that movie clip. And I do the same thing for die2. That's changing the display of those two dice. And then I simply provide the total value here. myroll_txt, that's our text box, setting the text property to a literal string of you rolled a and a space. And I'm going to concatenate the string value of die1 plus die2. Now I could have also changed this and added die 1 and die 2 first, and then change that using the toString method. Either way would work. So let me just test this again. So I rolled an 8, a 4, another 8, another 8, different face. It's going to be stuck on 8 there for a minute. Rolled on a 9, and these are all randomly generated. In testing this, you want to make sure you always get 6s and you always get 1s. And if we did this enough, we should get a 12, and we should probably get snake eyes at some point. The odds are against getting snake eyes. We have to click this several times, but eventually we should get a 1 and 1. There we go. So it's generating the whole range of possibilities there. And that's how we use random numbers. You could use the random number generator in creating a board game of some sort, where you're moving pieces around a board within a certain number of spaces. We'll use random number generators when we talk about arrays to shuffle a deck of cards and generate the 52 different cards. And we might use random numbers in generating, say, addition or multiplication flashcards for a student working on their math skills. Lots of possibilities, and you'll find that when you're creating games and you're creating simulations, the random method of math class will be a very important tool in your toolbox.